Okay, we're back again, hosted by Icarus Sailing Media, on location at the Yacht Club of Greece here in the Aegean Sea, watching the now Opties. Oh no, just kidding, 470s racing. I'm your host for the day, Jack Kaufman. Now let's check out what's going on exactly. We've got two 470s headed out on an upwind starboard beat, upwind beat, on a starboard tack, actually, I should say. And match racing, speed tuning as well. Practicing, actually, not match racing, just speed tuning. Both boats are pretty competitive, with both skippers being good and the crews being good as well. We've got a boat out there following them. It's a Lured, providing us with a live feed of their racing. They've been training like this now for a few hours, and the sun has come out more and more, which is fantastic. It's really shaping up to be a nice day here. Still kind of an overcast smog haze thing going on, but really shaping up to a great day. It keeps the heat down so the sun's not totally piercing through, though. We still have the beautiful sunlight coming through. The breeze has shifted a little bit to more of a southerly. It's still a little bit out of the southeast, if my orientation is correct. With getting up to about 8 knots now, puffs about 9. Still, though, not very puffy. Very steady and not shifty wind. The seas have gotten excuse me. Seas have gotten choppier, but it's still sailable for the dinghies, and everything's going well with that. And we're gonna test test, and yeah, it's a beautiful day for sailing here in Greece right now, as most days here are. The water isn't the cleanest here in Athens, especially downtown Athens area. But it's still a good turquoise hint to it in the shallower parts, which is nice. And it's certainly better than Rio's water. Now, speaking of Rio's water, what are we going to do about the 2012 Rio Olympics there with sailing? The water is not great quality. In fact, I was just talking to an Olympian the other week, and he sailed right past a couch floating in the water, much less bodies and such. Hopefully that's clean by the time the sailing is to go there. We might have to reactivate the facilities in London, as the Olympic Center Committee just recently announced from their headquarters in Colorado. Alright, now we're going to head a little bit more upwind in our live broadcast boat. I'm going to try to get a better position on this racing action. And considering zooming the cameras, but we're not sure if we want to do it. Let me remind you, our cameras have a good amount of zoom, especially our long shot Canon Legria HFG 30 with a 20 times optical and then a several times that digital zoom. We won't be using the digital zoom though today. Reduces the quality. Anyway, yeah, we're here in Greece, in Athens, the Yacht Club of Greece, and what's cool is that from where I am, I can actually see the Maltese Falcon X yacht here in the harbor. I'm going to go in repairs for a couple months. Greek, as you may know, is home to 50% of the shipping industry companies that are owned here. And, yeah, it's pretty sweet. Also, I can see the Acropolis from my location, just off to my left a little bit. And, yeah, straight ahead is Maltese Falcon, so it makes for a pretty cool scenic shot, vantage point here. This yacht club is also a bit of an outcrop from the land, which is nice. We have nearly panoramic views of this wonderful sea and of this country as well. Alright, so the boats are still sailing, still racing. Boats on water, water on boats. Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Though the boats aren't taking on water. It's not that wavy, and these sailors aren't that inexperienced. Okay, now we're setting the spinnaker. We're going to head down now for a downwind sail. For those of you who don't know, there's several points to sail. There's irons, which is directly into the wind, but that's no good. You can't do anything with that. Your sails start to luff. Make an annoying flappy sound. It's kind of like a flag, though, on a flagpole. Actually, it's just like that. And then there's the upwind, which is about 45 degrees off the breeze either way. And then there's on a reach, which is about 90 degrees or perpendicular to the breeze. And then there's broad reach, which is beyond 90, about 120, 125, and then there's 180 degrees off the breeze, or within that range, to 10 degrees either way, give or take, which we call downwind or off the breeze. When you do that, you add an additional sail in most boats, called a spinnaker. So right now our 470s are tracking downwind off the breeze, flying their spinnakers, as our live streaming dinghy motorboat thing follows behind, providing you with a live feed of them going downwind. Now to set the spinnaker, you need to use the spinnaker halyard to raise the spinnaker sail out of the boat, and in some boats when you set the spinnaker downwind you get rid of the jib, and as you leave it. 470 is an example of a kind of boat where you leave the jib up, so that's interesting. Also, like we spoke about opties earlier, you want to raise the centerboard a little bit in order to reduce the drag. And again, there's no need to have a centerboard really downwind because you're still tracking the direction of the wind, so there's no worry really about side slippage. Okay, so one of our boats just jibed up. They both jibed actually, and so now it's time to set the spinnaker pole to the opposite side in order to accommodate for the spinnaker. And actually now the boats are sailing directly towards me in my location vantage point here at the yacht club. So if you can see a little white speck building on the water in the distance of our sea cam, you're actually looking at me commentating live on this broadcast. Pretty cool. One of our teams here is a Hungarian team. They flew in just for this training. It's been going well for them so far. And except they're behind. Anyway, we're going to bring it back now to the water with Alex.
Καλησπέρα, καλώς ήρθατε στον Ναυτικό Όμιλο Ελλάδος. Είμαστε ζωντανά μέσα από τον αγωνιστικό χώρο. Βλέπουμε εδώ πέρα την αγωνιστική κατηγορία 470 να ταξιδεύουν πρίμα με τα μπαλόνια τους, τα πληρώματα να τριμάρουν, δηλαδή να φτιάχνουν τα ιστία και να πηγαίνουν προς το Πειραιά. Εκεί θα καβατζάρουν στο μικρολίμανο και θα πάσω σε εσάς.
Okay, back to me now. And still doing this live broadcast. I'm your land commentator host, John Jack Patrick James Kaufman VI, from America. And I've been sailing for most of my life and doing film work as well, though I'm only still the humble young university age of 20. I'm doing my best to break into this industry. I'm doing a live broadcast test here for Icarus Sailing Media of some 470s sailing on this beautiful day. They're still at a bit of a broad reach downwind sail, still flying the chute or the kite or the spinnaker, whatever your fancy is in that terminology. And they're actually still headed right towards us. We have our live sea boat and cameraman, as well as sea commentator, tracking behind them. They are sailing towards us at about, I'd say, 4 or 5 knots. Got a solid leeward heel on the front boat with the Hungarian boat falling behind. And they are sailing on the water. This is not ice sailing, nor is it land sailing, which does exist and is cool but dangerous. Well, at least more dangerous than this. This is your classic sailing with hulls on water and sails made of cloth. 470 is also an Olympic class boat, and it's a major boat in the world of sailing, especially in the world of dinghies. It's the bigger brother, if you will, of the 420 boat, or the I-420, which stands for International 420. 420s are the main boat of choice in collegiate racing in both high school and college, with competitions including fleet and team racing. No match racing in collegiate, though. Also, a difference with these International 470s and 420s is that they fly on a trap or a harness system in order to keep the boat flat in higher winds, although collegiately that's not allowed, nor is flying a chute in the collegiate sailing. No matter. The reason they do this is for tactical purposes, and in order to engage, something more tactical sailing. Especially in the team racing, it would actually be almost impossible to do a team race with the requirements that has. trying to stand out on a trapeze and go for speed and fly a chute. Just would take away from the tactics of the race. While we're talking about team and fleet and match racing, let's break down what goes into it. Fleet racing is the classic style of sailboat racing you may imagine, with any number of boats lining up to the start, anywhere from 3 to thousands. And it's a speed race. They race for speed, they race to win. Every man for themselves, every boat for themselves. First one to the finish line takes the gold. Straightforward, simple, like a road race, car race, drag race, anything. Now with team racing, boats are in teams with other boats. The most common form of this you find in high school and college collegiate sailing, where it's a team of 3 boats versus another team of 3 boats, usually in 420s, occasionally in FJs. And basically, the team with the best combination after the finish line has won the race. So, winning combinations include a 1-2X, as we like to call it in racing, which means your teammate's got a place 1 and a place 2 in any other place, because the X variable doesn't matter because the 1-2 would cancel it anyway in the lowest combination. You can think of this like golf. The less amount of strokes it takes you to get to the hole, the more winning points you have. Lower score, but equals the greater win. Same thing with team racing. Now, another combination of points is a 2-3-4. Okay. Anyway, the race is picking up now. Breeze is coming a bit more out of the southwest. 470s are head-to-head. They seem pretty evenly matched, with the Greece boat now to leeward of the Hungarian boat, and seem to be passing. So that's interesting. Usually what happens when there's a windward boat is the leeward boat can't pass because the windward boat's taking its wind, but not with the case of these Greek sailors against these Hungarians. Like before, or previously, they're headed upwind. It means the sails are trimmed in tight. And it appears that the Greek boat is actually ooching a little bit. Anyway, though, we're going to take you back to the sea with Alex.
Από τον Ναυτικό Όμιλο Ελλάδος είμαστε ζωντανά στον αγωνιστικό χώρο. Παρακολουθούμε την Ολυμπιακή κατηγορία 470 και τον αγώνα τους που κάνουν. Πριν λίγο μόλις ξεκίνησε η δεύτερη στιοδρομία και βλέπουμε εδώ πέρα τα δύο πυρώματα να τρέχουν κόντρα στον άνεμο, δηλαδή όπως είναι και ο όρος, και να πηγαίνει στα χείλη της μικρής έντασης του ανέμου και να τα. Αυτά από εμάς, τώρα πίσω σε εσάς.
Okay, back to me now on land here. Jack Kaufman, your host with Icarus Sailing Media. And Alex just gave us a nice front action briefing of the 470 match racing going on, unfolding right before our eyes, live. So, from my position here, we can see that the boats seem pretty evenly matched. They've gone upwind and downwind, speed tuning, testing, all that good stuff, and yeah, pretty evenly matched here. The Greeks still seem ahead, even though they were just coming out from leeward. They seem to have picked up and reverse rolled the Hungarian boat, if that makes sense. Ow. Excuse me. And, yeah, they're still leading. They've got, on the ladder rung, they're about the same. But if the Greek boat were to attack, he'd come out onto his port, and whereas the Hungarian would stay on starboard. Now, there'd be a tense decision there. Would the Greek boat be able to pass ahead of the starboard boat? Then it would be fine and continue to sail, but because of the rules of sailing, starboard dominates port. If the Hungarian boat stays its course and then comes and meets with the Greek boat has to make one of two choices. Either try to sail right in front of it, or it's going to have to duck below. Oh, it appears that it has tacked now, and it cleared far ahead of the Hungarian boat, so no worries on that problem there. The Greeks are winning this. They're with several ladder rungs ahead on this upwind beat, with the Hungarians lagging far behind at this point, it seems. It must be in a bit of a lull or a unfavorable wind shift. The Greeks are continuing their pull on this lovely day with the sun coming out even more. And the breeze is heading steady. Looks like the breeze has actually switched a bit back more right from the perspective of the breeze. From my perspective, a bit more left. These are top sailors we have coming in from the World Sailing, practicing for the next Worlds hosted in Mallorca, Spain. And, okay, the Greeks have tacked back now onto starboard with the Hungarian boat holding on its port, now onto port tack. So now we're going to watch again to see if they cross. My guess is the Greeks have not lost any ground and will hold their advantage on the higher ladder rung. So we'll see if they cross in front of the Hungarian boat, or if the Hungarian boat has to do a dramatic duck below, or thinks it can stay ahead of the Greek boat. If they do meet as well on this upwind beat, the Hungarians may have to tack below, but then therefore reverse rolling or under rolling the other boat. So we'll have to see what happens there. Oh, okay, so we have a crossing, but now it looks like the Greek boat has now bared off a bit. It's starting to come downwind, whereas the Hungarian boat is holding its port tack course upwind. Okay, now it's following suit. It's starting to bear off. It's on a starboard tack, and it's still actually holding its upwind course. Oh, here we go. It's setting its chute now as we speak. The skipper's holding tight to the tiller. Shoot up, and the crew is keeping the balance in the boat, just in the jib, getting ready to fly the chute while the skipper regains control of the main. So they are still in hot pursuit of the Greek boat. Now, whether this Greek boat can hold its lead on the downwind leg, we're not sure. It certainly proved itself on the upwind, but we've yet to see it on the downwind. Camera's got 4 minutes battery. And so we're going to see how this goes with the downwind leg. The Greek boat is still leading, and it looks actually as if the Hungarian boat's catching up. And now we have the Greek boat switched over now onto a port downwind, port tack, and okay, they forced the Greek boat over. No, wait, I got that confused. Reverse that. They've forced them over. Now they're both onto a port tack. Headed still on a downwind leg, but they've come up more into a broad reach now. And so they're sailing along. It's on the... Okay, and they're continuing to race. And headed right towards us now on land. Great racing there. And, the Hungarians are catching up to the Greeks. So we're going to give it back now to Alex on the water.
Καλησπέρα σας από το Ναυτικό Όμιλο Ελλάδος. Είμαστε στη δεύτερη σιδηροδρομία των αγώνων 470. Παρακολουθούμε τα δύο σκάφη να πηγαίνουν πρίμα νότια προς το Μικρολίμανο. Εκεί πέρα θα τερματίσουν και θα εξακολουθήσει η τρίτη σιδηροδρομία. Ταξιδεύουν με πολύ μικρή ένταση ανέμου, γι' αυτό και βλέπουμε ότι τα πληρώματα να είναι πολύ ήρεμα και απαλά πάνω στο σκάφος. Συνεχίζουν να πηγαίνουν πρίμα και να έχουν τον άνεμο από τα αριστερά και πίσω τους. Βλέπουμε εδώ τώρα το πλήρωμα από την Ουγγαρία με αριθμό ιστίου 91 και είμαστε πολύ χαρούμενοι που έχουμε μια διεθνή συμμετοχή και είναι όλα εντάξει. Όλα πάνε φοβερά για αυτή την ομάδα, έχουν έρθει από την Ουγγαρία και τα πάνε περίφημα. Τώρα πίσω σε εσάς.
Thank you, Alex, for your detailed and brief on the water report of that 470 racing action. It seems to be heating up out there. Yes, the Greeks... No, what? The Hungarians are still to windward of the Greeks in this downwind course, which means they're behind, but they technically have the advantage because they're taking the Greeks' wind, so in theory can slow down the Greeks' boat and then subsequently catch up to them. We'll have to wait to see if that's what unfolds. We're coming closer now to my vantage point here at the Yacht Club of Greece, hosted by Icarus Sailing Media for this live broadcast. Yes, breeze is still the same, wind's moving. A little recap on these kind of boats. These boats are 470 race boats used in the Olympics and fleet racing all around the world. Fast little boats. They have a good roll, especially the monohull. Two-man crew dinghy, and have actually been around now for a while, and are considered the big brother of the 420 boats. All right, we have the Greek boat in the front now, dropping its chute, taking off its spinnaker pole, getting ready to bear back upwind as it's quickly approaching the rocks here on the shore where I sit. The Hungarian boat lags about 7 boat lengths behind and is likely considering the same move. Okay, the Greeks have now headed up into a port tack and trimming on. Beautiful views here today from one of our main cameras here on the land. So they're holding that with the crew sitting to leeward. The reason they're doing this is because the winds are light enough where the crew does not have to go out on the trap or the harness in order to keep the boat flat. So she's moved a little bit to windward. Now the key to keep these boats going fast is flat. Flat is fast, as we used to say in my sailing school. And that's what they're going for in this Greece boat. Also, you want the weight forward, which our Greek crew, as we can see in the cameras, is doing. Alright, now the Hungarian boat has dropped their chute as well. They seem to still continue their downwind course. We'll have to see what they do. Okay, they're gonna... No. Yes, they're heading up now into a port tack. With the Greek boats coming back at them now on a starboard. Now, remember, starboard has the advantage over port. Let's see how this unfolds. They're approaching less than a boat length. Okay, the Greeks have ducked the Hungarians. And now they are headed upwind. They did what we call a rabbit start in order to test their speed. One boat ducks the other, and then they continue, and after a few tacks, they see who's higher on the ladder rung wind upbeat course. So we'll have to see now. The Greeks are headed out on starboard, and the Hungarians are on port, and they've come on to starboard now. The Greeks are kind of pulling ahead on the ladder rung equivalent, but it's still too early to tell. This is a classic test in sailboat racing and practice to see how it all works. Anyway, we're going to bring you back to the water now with Alex for an On the Water Report.
Καλησπέρα από τον Ναυτικόμηλο Ελλάδος. Είμαστε εδώ πέρα και βλέπουμε τα πληρώματα να πηγαίνουν όρθα στην τρίτη στιοδρομία. Βλέπουμε ότι η ένταση του ανέμου έχει πέσει πάλι. Όπως είπαμε, σήμερα είναι μια δύσκολη μέρα για ιστιοπλοεία. Παρ' όλα αυτά, ο άνεμος τα πάει περίφημα και μας κάνει το χατήρι μέχρι τώρα. Αυτή τη στιγμή τα δύο σκάφη, το ελληνικής καταγωγής και το ένα ουγγρικής, πηγαίνουν όρτσα, κόντρα με κόντρα, συναρπαστικά κοντά και ταξιδεύουν και δίνουν μια μάχη πλώρη με πλώρη για να δούμε ποιο θα τερματίσει πρώτο. Εδώ με το ελληνικό πλήρωμα της Ελλάδος 11 και τώρα πίσω σε εσάς.
Live again back here on land with myself and your commentator and host, Jack Kaufman. We have Icarus Sailing Media, the 420 International Racing Fleet, and Yakult of Greece, based here in Athens. We are now watching two top-level 470s compete against each other, and it appears to be match racing, but it's more of just speed testing. Before the commercial break, we left you with the two boats starting a rabbit starts in order to do a speed test upwind to see who's faster, and then they'll adjust their boats accordingly. The racing's unfolding very nicely. With 3 minutes later here, they seem to still be on the same ladder rung, which means the boats are quite fairly tuned the same, and the crews and skippers perform to quite the same caliber. That's the beauty of one design. If the boats are the same, it's really up to the individuals, and the individuals seem to be holding up pretty evenly against each other at the moment, so this is some really close, interesting racing we have before us. They're still heading on an upwind beat with sails trimmed in tight. In lasers we call that block to block, but they don't have that in 470s. And both on starboard tack, headed in southeasterly direction, with our chase boat live camera feed, bringing to you the latest in live YouTube broadcast. They're maintaining good speed out there with the breeze blowing about 8 or 9 knots, and the boat speed's at about 6 knots. Been sailing out there for a while now, really trying to get the speed tests right. These Hungarians just won't quit, and neither will the Greeks, so good on them. Remember, this broadcast is brought to you by Icarus Sailing Media. Join us for all the sailing that you could want and media coverage of it. I'm your host, Jack Kaufman. Okay, now the Greek boat has tacked down onto port, and it looks like they're crossing with the Hungarian boat pretty soon. We're gonna have to see what unfolds here. The Hungarians have tacked, So they're now to leeward of the Greek boat, though they are a little bit ahead in boat length and on the ladder rung. The Greeks seem to have a good amount of speed. The Hungarians didn't get quite much speed out of that roll. Should have rolled it harder out of that tack. And now they're lured. They might be losing more speed as the Greeks roll over the top of them and take their wind. So we're going to see how this unfolds. It would appear, yes, the Greeks are closing their distance on the Hungarians. They're down to about half a boat length on the ladder rung, though. Beam, in terms of beam, the width of the boat, still a good amount of distance in between. It's hard for me to gauge, but looking at the live broadcast from on the water, it's over 10 boat lengths. So, okay, the Greeks now have tacked onto starboard. They don't look like they don't want to engage the Hungarian boats to quite the degree that I'd expected. The Hungarians now are attacking as well, following suit. The Greeks now have rounded the windward mark and are bearing off onto a starboard downwind form. Shoots up, pulls out, full speed ahead. The Hungarians now, again, seeming to lag behind, so it appears now that we can determine the Greeks have the advantage on the upwind, not only maintaining equal speed with the Hungarians, but gaining. On the downwind, they seem pretty evenly matched, though the distance they created, the Greeks over the Hungarians, is ridiculous. So the Hungarians now finally just set their shoot on their downwind leg after rounding the windward mark, and they're about 12 boat lengths behind. It's going to be quite a bit of ground for them to cover. But at the very least, the Hungarians are matched in speed on the downwind of the Greeks. We don't know yet if they're faster. They're going to have to work on their tuning. Again, now both boats are on the starboard tack on this downwind leg, with our boat chasing behind. And curious to see how this unfolds. Okay, yes, the Hungarians are closing the gap now at about a half a boat length every minute. We'll have to see again how this unfolds. Alright, so both the boats downwind, sails out a little bit, but not 90 degrees. Of course, you don't want your sail out all the way perpendicular to your boat. It's not as fast as you may think it is. You actually want to sail at a slight off angle on the downwind breeze in order to maintain maximal speed. If you were to let your sail all the way out, it would be much like the old square-sailed boats of the 1600s. Okay, Greek boat up ahead has gone into a jibe onto the port tack now, reset the spinnaker, and both boats seem to be more of a broad reach, maybe even closer to a reach than to a downwind. These wind conditions now have let off a little bit, the breeze has died a bit, so they're not too favorable for a dead downwind race, or beat. The Hungarians have maintained their starboard tack, with the Greeks carrying out now left on their port tack. We're going to see now if the Hungarians do jibe over onto the same tack as the Greek boats have just put away their chute and seem to be headed back upwind now, with the Hungarians trailing not too far behind, but still behind. They need to work on their boat speed to keep up with this Greek boat. We'll have to see how that unfolds as the day rolls on and they adjust their tuning. In the meantime, we're bringing you a live broadcast brought to you by Icarus Sailing Media here out of the Yacht Club of Greece. I'm your commentator and host, Jack Kaufman. I'm American, but I'm in Greece, talking about sailing. Okay, the Greek boat has tacked over now onto a starboard tack. From my vantage point, I can see the whole ocean. It's very nice up here. And they're holding their starboard. They're heading up a little bit. They seem to have gone out of race mode, more into casual mode now. And the Hungarian boat is out of my sight, but I'm sure they're close behind the Greeks. Okay, Greeks now have come onto port, back into race mode, sails tuned tight. That's the main and the jib. Probably let off the main halyard a little bit because you don't want such tension on the boat in these lighter wind conditions. Also, the swells seem to have rolled in a little bit, probably a follow-up cause of that higher breeze I was in earlier. So now we have a bit of a rolling seas with chop on the rolls and the dying breeze. Anyway, though, we're going to bring you back to the... Okay, never mind. We're going to keep talking. This is Jack here at Icarus Sailing Media. Anyway, the boat is now pulled up, and we are now going to switch to an interview with the 470 Greek crew. Take it away, Alex.
Καλησπέρα από το Ναυτικό Όμιλο Ελλάδος. Μόλις τελείωσε η τρίτη συνδρομία της δεύτερης ημέρας 470. Εδώ πέρα είμαστε με την ελληνική συμμετοχή και το πλήρωμα στρατηγείο Αλίνα. Πώς τα πήγατε, Αλίνα?
Πήγαμε αρκετά καλά, οι συνθήκες είναι δύσκολες γιατί η ένταση του ανέμου είναι πολύ χαμηλή, αλλά έχει παραμείνει ο κυματισμός. Αλλά εντάξει, τέλος καλό, όλα καλά.
Μάλιστα, βλέπουμε όπως είπαμε και πριν, οι καιρικές συνθήκες είναι δύσκολες, ο άνεμος έχει κόψει, αλλά παρόλα αυτά η ελληνική συμμετοχή τα πήγε περίφημα και νίκησε και τις 3 ιστιοδρομίες και ήρθε πρώτη. Είμαστε πολύ χαρούμενοι γι' αυτό. Έχετε να πείτε κάτι άλλο για τις επιδόσεις σας σήμερα?
Γενικά είμαστε πάρα πολύ ευχαριστημένες. Ελπίζουμε και αύριο να έχουμε μια καλή συνέχεια.
Αυτά από εμάς εδώ πέρα. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ το ελληνικό πλήρωμα. Πίσω σε εσάς τώρα.
Okay, thank you, Alex, for that interview on the water with the Greek crew member. Seems to be doing well out there. Certainly with the speed tuning, she's got it quite figured out. These racers, may I remind you, are top caliber, winning the world several years in a row, and the skipper crew pair of these Greek boats with the Hungarians not quite up to par. They seem to have actually disappeared. They probably sank. It's common in the 470 class. Anyway, the Greeks are still chilling with our live broadcast on the water crew, getting refreshments and food in order to replenish themselves on this somewhat hot day, but certainly quite exhausting. They've been out there now for a few hours drilling with the Hungarians. I can imagine that's quite tough. Anyway, it's still a beautiful day out here. Chop is still out. The swells have died a little bit. The breeze is on, but dying. Sun's coming out more. Definitely no more threat of a storm or a rain or any kind of squall. As a reminder, I'm your host and commentator here on the land, Jack Hoffman. And okay, the Greek boat is now off. They are done with their interview and chat with our other water boys. And they have continued now onto a port tack upwind beat. Sails trimmed tight. They are not quite in race mode, but they're getting ready to get back into race mode. With today's competition, you never know when the race committee might want to kick off another race with the chance of the breeze dying off. But it's been pretty steady today. We've been quite fortunate with that. Anyway, the 470s are lean and mean racing machines. They've been around for a while now, and they're, like I said earlier, the big brother of the 420. Lovely, sleek racing boats that fly the trapeze and a chute and a jib and a main. They also are comprised of a rudder and a centerboard like any other boat, though the centerboard is retractable, and there's no bulb at the bottom to keep it from capsizing or anything like that. And that's because the crew has the ability to use hiking straps, which they put their feet under, to lean outside of the boat to keep it flat in heavier wind conditions. And when the wind conditions get especially heavy, they go out on the trapeze. They fly trapeze, we like to call it, using a harness and a wire, or on the wire. They are able to lean out of the boat by standing on the side gunnel. Keeps the boat flat in higher breezes than required by just hiking out of the boat. Remember, as I said earlier, flat is fast. You want to maintain a flat boat in order to maintain speed. Okay, looking back at our Greek boat now. They are in race mode. They're tuning now for an upwind beat. Controls are off a little bit in these lighter conditions, but you still want things locked on, like the Vang, which connects the mast to the boom, the outhaul, which brings the mainsail along the boom, and the Cunningham, which takes the inner tack of the main and brings it down. Also, again, with the outhaul, that's called the clew, that outer bottom corner. And, of course, the main halyard raises the mainsail, and the jib halyard raises the jib sail. Okay, as I was talking about earlier with the trapeze on the wire sailing, our crew seems to be trying it out.